My name is Arthur, and I am 70 years old. I spent 40 years of my life as a structural engineer, obsessed with how things stand up, how loads are distributed, and how to keep walls from crumbling under pressure. I lived in a world of concrete, steel, and absolute mathematical certainty. If I couldn't calculate it, I didn't believe in it. But what I'm about to tell you has nothing to do with the laws of physics as I taught them. It is about what happens when the structure of your reality collapses, and you fall through the cracks of the world you thought was solid. I died on a Tuesday afternoon, and what I saw in those minutes of silence dismantled everything I thought I knew about existence. It happened in my backyard. It was one of those crisp autumn days where the air smells like dried leaves and wood smoke. I had retired 5 years prior, and my universe had shrunk to the perimeter of my garden fence. I was happy with that. My wife Eleanor was inside making tea. I could hear the faint clinking of ceramic mugs through the open kitchen window. That sound, the spoon against the cup, was the last piece of normal human life I heard before the change. I was kneeling by the rose bushes, trying to repair a wooden trellis that had rotted at the base. I remember the sensation of the rough wood in my hand and the damp coolness of the soil soaking into the knees of my trousers. I felt a sudden sharp pressure behind my eyes. It wasn't pain exactly. It felt like a camera lens twisting into focus, but twisting too far, until the glass shattered. I tried to stand up, thinking it was just a rush of blood to the head, but the ground didn't stay where it was supposed to be. The grass rushed up to meet my face. I didn't feel the impact. I didn't feel the cold earth against my cheek. I just felt a heavy, dull snap inside my chest, like a cable parting under too much tension. Then there was silence. It wasn't the silence of an empty room. It was a silence that swallowed sound. The birds stopped singing. The wind stopped rustling the dry leaves. The clinking of the teaspoon ceased. I lay there, looking at a single blade of grass that was an inch from my eye. I saw the serrated edge of it, the tiny veins of green, with a clarity that was impossible for human eyes. I wasn't scared. That is the strange thing. I should have been terrified. I knew with the clinical detachment of an engineer that my heart had stopped. The pump had failed. The system was shutting down. But I wasn't shutting down. I was expanding. I realized I was standing up. I looked down at my hands, expecting to see dirt under my fingernails, but my hands looked translucent like shimmering heat rising off pavement. Then I looked down at the ground. I saw an old man lying in the dirt, wearing my plaid shirt and my muddy gardening trousers. His mouth was slightly open. His skin was turning a pale, waxy grey. It is a profound shock to look at your own body and feel absolutely no connection to it. It looked like a discarded coat. It was just matter. It wasn't Arthur. I was Arthur. And I was hovering 3 feet above the scene, feeling lighter than I had felt in decades. The chronic ache in my lower back was gone. The stiffness in my knuckles was gone. I felt a vitality, a humming energy, that I hadn't possessed since I was 20. Suddenly the back door flew open. Eleanor came running out, a dish towel still in her hand. She must have seen me fall. I watched her drop to her knees beside my body. I saw the terror in her face, the way her hands shook as she touched my neck, searching for a pulse that wasn't there. "Arthur, Arthur, please!" she screamed. I wanted to reach out and touch her shoulder. I wanted to say, "I'm right here, Ellie. I'm fine. I'm better than fine." I reached out, but my hand passed through her shoulder as if she were made of smoke. That was the first moment of real heartbreak. I was present, but I was impotent. I was a ghost in my own garden. As she fumbled for her phone to call for help, the scene began to change. The garden didn't disappear, but it lost its dominance. The colors of the roses and the green of the grass began to fade, not into gray, but into transparency. It was as if the physical world was a painted curtain, and someone was shining a light from behind it, burning the image away. I felt a pull. It wasn't a wind. It was more like a magnetic attraction, a gentle but irresistible tide drawing me backward and upward. I tried to stay. I wanted to stay with Eleanor. I didn't want to leave her alone with that empty shell in the grass. But the pull was stronger than my will. As I rose higher, I saw the roof of my house, then the neighborhood, then the curvature of the town. But I wasn't just seeing it from a height. I was seeing through it. I could see the energy lines running through the houses, the pulse of electricity in the wires, and the dim, glowing lights of other people's souls moving through the streets. I realized then that what we call a near-death experience isn't really about death at all. It is about waking up. I had been asleep for 70 years, dreaming I was a man named Arthur, and now finally the alarm clock had gone off. The world I left behind, the world of taxes and gravity and aging, was the dream. This expanding lightness, was the reality. The sky above me wasn't blue anymore. It was a deep velvety indigo that seemed to breathe. I was moving fast now, accelerating away from the earth, but there was no wind in my face. I was crossing a threshold. I was leaving the dimension of time and space and entering something far more vast. The transition was not like a tunnel. I know many people speak of a tunnel, and perhaps that is how their minds interpret it. But for me, it was like passing through a series of veils. Imagine standing in a room hung with hundreds of sheer curtains, layer after layer. As I moved forward, each veil lifted, revealing a clearer, brighter reality behind it. I was no longer Arthur the engineer. I was a point of consciousness, a spark of awareness moving through a medium that felt like liquid light. I had no body, yet I felt more myself than I ever had in the flesh. All the filters were gone. The anxiety, the doubts, the petty grievances I had held onto for years, they all evaporated because they were heavy, and nothing heavy could exist in this place. I began to perceive a sound. It was a low, resonant vibration, like a choir singing a single perfect chord that never ended. It wasn't coming from a specific direction. It was emanating from the fabric of the place itself. It felt like the universe was humming. I realized later that this sound was the frequency of life after death. It was the sound of creation holding itself together. As I moved deeper into this indigo expanse, I noticed I wasn't alone. I didn't see people in the traditional sense. I didn't see faces or bodies. I saw points of light, like stars, but they were intelligent. They were aware. I sensed a crowd of witnesses, a gathering of beings who knew me. I felt a wave of familiarity wash over me, stronger than any homecoming I had ever experienced on Earth. Among these lights, one presence distinguished itself. It didn't step forward because there was no forward, but it became the center of my attention. It was a brilliant, golden white light that radiated a heat that was not physical, but emotional. As it enveloped me, I felt a sensation that is almost impossible to describe in English. Imagine the love of your mother, your spouse, your children, and your best friend, all distilled into their purest essence, multiplied by 1,000, and directed at you all at once. That was what this light felt like. It was total, crushing, absolute acceptance. There was no judgment. That was the biggest surprise. I had been raised with a strict religious background, fearing a God who kept a ledger of my sins. I expected a trial. I expected to be asked why I had been impatient with my neighbors or why I hadn't given more to charity. But there was no ledger. This presence knew everything I had ever done, every secret thought, every failure, every kindness, and it loved me because of them, not in spite of them. The presence spoke to me, but not with words. It was a direct transfer of thought. It bypassed my ears and went straight into my mind. "You have been building with stone," the presence said. "Now look at what is built with light." Suddenly, my vision shifted. I wasn't looking at a void anymore. I was seeing a structure of infinite complexity. It looked like a vast web, a lattice of golden threads connecting everything to everything else. I saw that what I had called empty space back on Earth was actually densely packed with this energy. I understood then that the other side isn't a distant place. It isn't up in the clouds, it is right here. It is superimposed over our physical world. We just can't see it because our physical eyes are tuned to a different frequency. We are like radios tuned to AM, completely unaware that FM signals are passing through us all the time. Crossing over is just changing the dial. I saw the timeline of my life, but not linearly. I saw it all at once. I saw my birth, my childhood, my wedding, and my death in the garden, all existing simultaneously in a great, shimmering circle. I saw how my actions rippled out. I saw a moment from when I was 30 years old. I was stressed, rushing to a meeting, and I had snapped angrily at a cashier in a grocery store. In this life review, I didn't just see myself yelling. I felt the cashier's humiliation. I felt her chest tighten. I felt her go home that night and cry because she felt small and worthless. I felt the pain I had caused. It wasn't punishment, it was clarity. I had to feel it to understand the architecture of human connection. But then, I saw another moment. I saw myself helping a student who was failing my class. I spent hours with him after school, patiently explaining the math until he understood. I saw his relief, I saw his confidence grow. I saw him go on to become an architect who built safe housing for thousands of people. I felt the warmth of that ripple extending out for generations. The presence held me in this vision, showing me that the only thing that matters, the only thing that is real structural integrity in the universe, is how we treat each other. Love is the mortar. Without it, everything collapses. I felt a profound sense of regret for all the time I had wasted worrying about status, money, and being right. From this vantage point, none of that mattered. The only thing that endured was the love I had given and the love I had received. I wanted to stay in this light forever. I felt a sense of belonging that I had never found on earth. I was ready to dissolve into this ocean of peace. I was ready to be done with the struggle of being human. Before we continue to the revelation that changed my understanding of reality, I want to invite you to pause for a moment. If this story is resonating with something deep inside you, I encourage you to simply be open to what comes next. We often walk through life forgetting that we are part of something much larger. You are not alone in your questions. The golden light began to dim slightly, not because it was fading, but because it was allowing me to see something else. The presence guided my attention toward what I can only describe as the boundary of our dimension. As an engineer, I had spent my life working with 3 dimensions: height, width, and depth. We add time as a 4th dimension. But here, I saw that these were just the surface layers of a much deeper reality. The presence showed me the blueprint of existence. I saw our physical world, the earth, the cities, the gardens, suspended like a bubble within a much larger ocean. The revelation that hit me was about the nature of separation. On earth, we feel separate. I am here. You are there. There is empty space between us. But from this higher perspective, I saw that separation is an illusion created by the limitations of our physical senses. I saw thick cables of light connecting every human being to every other human being. We were not isolated individuals. We were nodes in a single vast consciousness. If you hurt someone else, you are literally hurting a part of yourself. If you help someone else, you are healing a part of yourself. It wasn't poetry. It was physics, spiritual physics. The presence communicated a thought that vibrated through my entire being. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the ocean in a drop. Then, the revelation deepened. I was shown what lies beyond our dimension. I saw that what we call the afterlife is actually the real life. Our time on earth is a temporary assignment, a simulation designed for learning. We come here to learn things that can only be learned through limitation. Think about it. In a world of instant thought manifestation, which is what the other side is like, you cannot learn patience. In a world of total unity, you cannot learn forgiveness. In a world of pure love, you cannot learn courage. We come to this dense, heavy, difficult dimension specifically because it is hard. The resistance is the point. Just as a muscle needs gravity to grow stronger, our soul needs the heaviness of earth to evolve. I looked at the structure of the universe and saw that it was built on a foundation of sound and light, but the binding agent was consciousness. The universe isn't a machine, it's a thought. It's a great, living thought, held in the mind of the Creator. I asked the presence without words, why is there so much suffering? Why is the world so broken? The answer came instantly. It is not broken, it is under construction. You are the builders. You forget your tools so that you can rediscover them. I understood then that we are not victims of the world, we are co-creators. We agreed to come here, we volunteered for the amnesia. We volunteered for the struggle because we knew that the gem of wisdom we would bring back was worth the pain. Then the tone of the experience changed. The expansiveness began to contract. The feeling of infinite freedom was suddenly checked by a sense of duty. "It is not your time, Arthur," the presence said. The words hit me like a physical blow. "No," I replied, my thoughts screaming with resistance. "I don't want to go back. It's too heavy there, it's too cold. My body is broken. Please, let me stay." I felt like a child begging not to be sent back to a boarding school where I was lonely and confused. Here, I was home. Here, I was whole. The thought of squeezing back into that decaying 70-year-old body, with its aches and its slow, clumsy brain, was horrifying. "You have not finished your work," the presence insisted gently but firmly. "You have built with stone. Now you must go back and build with truth. You must tell them that they are not alone. You must tell them that death is not the end." I tried to argue. I tried to cling to the light. But the decision had been made, not by an external judge, but by my own higher self, the part of me that knew the mission wasn't complete. The golden light began to recede. The velvety indigo sky started to spin. I felt a sensation of falling, a terrible, sickening drop. It felt like falling down an elevator shaft in a building that was collapsing. The beautiful music of the spheres faded into a chaotic, rushing wind. The warmth was replaced by a biting cold. I was plummeting back into density, back into time, back into gravity. The return to the body was violent. It wasn't a gentle waking up, it was a slam. Imagine diving into a pool of freezing water while wearing a suit of lead armor. That is what it feels like to re-enter the physical body after touching the infinite. The first thing I felt was pain. My chest felt like it had been crushed by a sledgehammer. My head was pounding with a rhythm that felt explosive. Then came the noise. The beautiful silence of the void was replaced by the mechanical beeping of monitors, the hiss of oxygen, and the urgent, frantic voices of strangers. "We have a rhythm! He's back!" someone shouted. I tried to open my eyes, but they felt glued shut. My mouth was full of plastic tubing. I was trapped. The claustrophobia was overwhelming. A minute ago, or was it an eternity, I had been flying through galaxies of light. Now, I was a slab of meat on a gurney, being rattled down a hallway. I heard Eleanor crying. "Arthur! Oh God, Arthur!" I wanted to tell her I was okay. I wanted to tell her, "Don't cry, Ellie." I saw the blueprint. It's all perfect. It's all beautiful. But I couldn't speak. I could only lay there, shivering, feeling the crushing weight of the earth pressing down on me. Recovery was a long, slow road. The doctors told me I had suffered a massive cardiac event followed by a hypoxic seizure. They said I was lucky to be alive. They talked about medication, stents, and rehabilitation. They looked at my charts and saw a medical miracle, but they didn't know they were looking at a man who had seen the other side of the curtain. For months, I fell into a deep depression. It is common, I think, for those of us who come back. We are homesick. I missed the light. I missed the feeling of total acceptance. The world seemed so grey, so petty, so unnecessarily cruel. I would watch the news and see wars and arguments, and I wanted to scream, "Don't you see you are fighting yourselves? You are all connected." But slowly, the integration began. I realized that the presence hadn't sent me back to mourn the loss of heaven, but to bring a little piece of it down here. I started seeing the world differently. When I looked at a wall, I didn't just see brick and mortar. I saw the space between the atoms. I saw the energy holding it together. When I looked at people, even difficult people, I saw that faint glow of light inside them, the same light I had seen in the void. I stopped worrying about the things that used to keep me up at night. My retirement fund, the political climate, the weeds in the garden, none of it mattered in the grand scheme. What mattered was the conversation I had with the grocery clerk. What mattered was holding Eleanor's hand while we watched TV. What mattered was being kind. I realized that my job as an engineer was over, but my job as a human being was just beginning. I had to build bridges, not out of steel, but out of compassion. The revelation that lies beyond our dimension is this: consciousness is fundamental. It is not a byproduct of the brain. The brain is just a receiver. When the radio breaks, the signal doesn't die. The signal is still there, singing its song in the ether. I am 70 years old. My body is tired. I know that someday soon the pump will fail again. The screen will go dark, but I am no longer afraid. I know what is waiting for me. I know that the darkness is just the shadow of a much greater light. And my warning, or rather, my advice, to you is this. Don't wait until you die to understand what life is. Don't wait until the lights go out to see the truth. The dimensions aren't separated by miles. They are separated by fear. Drop the fear, and you are already there. You are not a body with a soul. You are a soul that has briefly taken on a body to experience the miracle of feeling the wind on your face and the touch of a loved one's hand. Cherish the heaviness while you have it. It is the only way to learn how to fly.